So good afternoon. I hope everybody can find a seat. And if you can't find the seat, I think we have nice stairs here as well where you can look for a place. My name is Eddy Moors. I'm Rector of
Yeah, is this better? Okay. So the first words I said was about seating, but I think that's almost solved. So there we are. I would not repeat that part. I would like to actually welcome all of you here, and I would especially like to welcome actually all your excellencies. I think what is nice about an institute like IHE Delft is the fact that we are try to be an international institute, and I think a day like this is a very nice example of this international setting that is here. And in this case, it's composed of two parts. One part is, I think, represented a bit in the front rows by the ambassadors and representatives of the embassies that are here. So very welcome to all of you. But also, I think, to all the students that are here, both the students that are here already for a year and PhD fellows, but also the new students that just came in. And I think the nice part of this is that I think we have now a little bit more than 50 countries represented by the students here. So for me, that's also a sort of resemblance of a United Nations conference that we're organizing here. And I think if you look at the screens here, you see that the different sustainable development goals are represented here. And for IHE Delft, as a water institute, there is one very important sustainable development goal that we look at those development goals also in interlinkages with the others. So for us, like I said, water is the part that is of interest, and that's one thing that we would like to teach also to the students here at the Institute in the coming time that you're here. And I think with that, it's also a period that is about learning to get to know one another, learning to get to know the material that you're studying, also learning us as your lecturers a bit about what you bring from your own country into the Institute and your mindset, your ideas about how to do that. I think what is important besides learning is also that you have a social entertainment here and that you feel at home in the Dutch society. And for that I would like also to welcome actually the Dutch friends that we have here who are connecting with the students and help the students actually to find their way a little bit in Delft and in the society and what you can do. And I don't know exactly why the students were a little bit late today, but it could be that they were already experiencing a little bit what is happening in Delft. So I think that's very good. So thank you all for that and for coming here. For those of you who don't know IHE, just a few words about the history. IHE Delft was erected in 1957. At that time, we just had a big flood in the southwest of the Netherlands, where a lot of people passed away and where a lot of efforts were being made actually to solve the problem, but also thinking how to prevent the problem. And then later on, a similar sort of flood happened in what was then called East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh. And that was actually the trigger to say, okay, can't we use this expertise, this experience that we have had to help solve and maybe train people also in Bangladesh. And I think that was the starting point. I also think that that started from a very technical background and technical solutions. And what you see happening over the years is also happening here in the Netherlands, that we're also looking at better ways how to live with water. So we're also looking at more softer solutions. Part of that is related to nature-based solutions, but part of that also very much has to do with how do you deal with the populations, how do you deal with the economy. So that's also what you see happening at the Institute, going from a real technical engineering type of approach. Now we try to combine this approach together with all the other needs that you need to know on the social, financial and other disciplines that are all coming together when you are treating water problems. So I hope you will pick that up here and that you will go back to your country with a lot of skills, but also I hope with new ideas and with things that you would like to implement there. I think there I would like to invite you all to our lifelong learning program, and I hope that after you finish your thesis here, that you also continue collaborating with us within our alumni network. For us, it's important that we sometimes put a little bit more emphasis on one topic than the other. Our thematic topic for the upcoming year is water and climate, and that will also be reflected in the World Water Day of 2020, when water and climate will be also the topic of the World Water Day. And you may expect that in the coming months, between now and 2020, we will be putting a bit more emphasis to showcase what we're doing at the level of water and climate change. I think with that, I would like to start this session over here. The last thing I would like to say is that I think this diversity, both in the disciplines that I mentioned before, but also in the different backgrounds and the perspectives that you bring here, I think makes this is really an excellent and unique opportunity to find out what you can do next in your period over here. So with that, I would like to hand over the words to our next speaker. And I would like to ask Assela Pathirana to come on stage and say a few words actually about his experience here. Assela, can I give the floor to you? And maybe a little bit of background for Assela, and I think that's also important. He's from Sri Lanka. He's one of our IHE alumni here, and he's now lecturing here at the Institute, and I think he has some very nice experience that he would like to share with you. Assela, please.
Thank you very much. Okay, welcome to IHE. Now, I may be biased, but I would say that you have come to a fantastic place to learn and also to work, because I have been working in this place for the last 12 years and I had a lot of fun. But when I was asked to make this short speech, partially welcoming you, partially explaining what it is IHE about, well, the first thing I went into is my own domain. You know, urban problems, asset management, modeling, programming. I mean, these are things I do. So like many of my colleagues, we have our own, special areas. But then after, rattling this idea around for a few days, I realized that no, probably the most important experience I can share with you is completely outside my specialization. So what I'm going to do today is to share with you what I call my learning moments in my professional life at IHE. We are very fortunate at IHE as faculty members and as students because we get to experience almost the whole world, especially the developing world and world in transition, but also. So what I'm going to do is to share some experiences and what I think are the lessons that I learned from these things, which I hope will be useful to you, but if not, at least it will be amusing to hear this, this anecdote. So let's start our story from Vietnam. Can Tho city is in the very south of Vietnam, in the middle of the Vietnam's Mekong Delta. And this city is well known for its flooding. The city floods more than 20 times in a given year. I'm not talking about catastrophic floods, but small floods happen almost as a habit. So the people who are living in this city, whose roots are from agricultural communities, they seem to be very comfortable with this flooding issue, as you can see. So a social science survey that has been done some time back found out that people overwhelmingly say that we don't mind floods as long as they are small, about knee-high. We have numbers, but forget the numbers for a moment. Now, people like us from around the world, we hail this. We said that this is great, these people know how to live with floods. You know, we were writing our little papers and, you know, all these things. But then some years later, some of us, you know, did some study. We look at what is the water quality of this flooding in terms of human health. What we found was, literally, the water quality of flood is very similar to the water in the sewers. So, then you ask the question, are they living with water or living with sewerage? So, it's very important to look around. You have a journey. All of you have your special areas, your hydroinformatics, your sanitation engineering, your flood resilience, but look around a little bit. And sometimes be surprised from what you see. That is my first lesson. Now, very recently, I was visiting a small town in southern Europe, and one of the municipality officers was showing me around, and she showed me what is the crown jewel as far as green infrastructure is concerned in that town. In the middle of the town, they have built this beautiful, beautiful park. And she explained all about it, how it prevents flooding, it's beautiful, and it is beautiful. But then she said something. It was designed by a very famous landscape architect, but people don't like it. People literally say that frogs make a lot of noise at night, I cannot sleep. So I was flabbergasted because, you know, this is not what you usually experience. People pay good money to live next to places like this. So what's going on? After scratching my head for some time, I asked this question. When did you involve the people? The answer was, but it was designed by the famous architect. But apparently they did not involve people. So at the end, they end up designing a park for the frogs. Frogs were happy, but people were not. Of course, I have to say that, of course they had their reasons, because I'm not blaming these people. It happened that way, right? It's not really, anybody's fault, but this is what happened. Now let's go to Indonesia. Island of Sulawesi, that was in news in the recent past about the floods and things like that. The city of Kendari, I was privileged enough to coordinate and conduct what we call co-learning and co-design sessions. It's a big word for things we do around the table. So what we do is we encourage a lot of experts to come together, not only experts, but most of the stakeholders, right? So then we sit around tables and we try to, teach each other a little bit about what we know, and then focus on coming up with concrete solutions for the water problems in the city. Now, one day, we were doing this for a really long time, few years, and one day when I was, facilitating these tables, I saw this lady who is far away from the tables. So she was just there. I later learned that this lady is an environmental lobbyist, but this picture will do no. But of course, she was not protecting or anything like that. This picture is completely misleading. She was a very nice lady, but she was just idling there. So I went to her and said, "Ma'am, what's wrong? Why are you not sitting in the tables?" Then she told me something really profound to me. That is, we have an order the way we do work. First, the government comes with the plan. We wait for that, and then we take the plan, and then we provide our critique. So what can I do here? Because still you are making the plan. I have no part for that. Right. The lesson here is, you can talk all about this co-learning business, but it's not easy. Because co-learning needs a lot of learning in itself. It's a skill. And you have to spend effort to do that right. And sometimes our education, our training go against it. So sometimes it needs what we call unlearning. We have to unlearn things that we have learned in order to get this right. Yeah. So it doesn't come for free. Now, who is responsible to impart this environment, these skills, to sit together and learn? I say it's you. You are the experts. So it's your responsibility. I say it's almost your burden, expert's burden. But you are facing a very big conundrum here, because on one hand, this day and age, everybody has a right for their opinion. But at the same time, every opinion is not right. For example, if you are an environmental scientist, I'm a nuclear physicist, I'm designing a nuclear reactor, and I ask you for your opinion. If I press you, you will give some opinion, but that opinion might be nonsensical. How can you put this together? How can you put it together? Probably my own answer for this is that if you are the hydraulics expert, if you are the social scientist, it is your responsibility to make people around you, the stakeholders, learn a little bit of what your trade is, so that they can in turn contribute sensibly into the ideas you put forward. Right? Talking about experts' involvement in stakeholder learning and co-design, let's go back to Vietnam. This is about 3 years ago, in 2016. We were invited by the Vietnamese government to do a very interesting exercise. That is, they were having a climate crisis in the drinking water system, so they asked us to do a 1 week long workshop. We had about 20 Dutch experts who went from here, including myself. I don't look Dutch, but I went as a Dutch expert. And there were about 30 experts from Vietnam, and more importantly, there were a lot of important stakeholders from the city, and we sat together. We spent a lot of time around tables, and we came up with nice ideas. But I noticed some very interesting dynamic in the first few days of this workshop. That is, we, the Dutch experts, we went there with a burden. Eddy talked about the success of Netherlands in water management, which is very justified, very true. But as a result, sometimes we end up bringing this success, these stories with us. So in the beginning, we were literally naming the solutions. We were saying that we should do this or we should do that, right? But we had some very enlightened facilitators who were also Dutch. But these people started chipping away this burden little by little. By the end of the workshop, we kept our ideas aside and we really tried understanding what is the reality in Vietnam and what are the solutions you need that fit into the Vietnamese context. We came up with what we think at least as some very interesting designs. But at the very end, we had a big ceremony to conclude the training, to conclude the co-design workshop. And the director of the local water company, Savaco, said this: I thought you would try to push a Dutch solution. He literally said that. But you came up with a nice design that are appropriate to Vietnam. And this is what you really strive to achieve. By forgetting your specifics, you don't forget your skills or knowledge. You bring that. And then you try to apply it in the right context. And then it works wonders. So probably the lesson here is, if you only carry a hammer, be careful, because everything in the world is not a nail. So there is no single best solution that suits everywhere in the water world for any problem. Finally, let's come back to the country. Now this is about 8 or 9 years ago. I was new to this city and I was visiting there to start a research program. And then I was fortunate enough to meet this gentleman who was the director of the Climate Change Coordination Office of the city. And he shared a drink with me. And that was the time when a multi-year research project has just finished in the city, funded by some OECD country. I'm not going to name the people here. Then he said something very interesting. You know, Assela, they gave us the destination. They said that the climate future of this city is going to be really bad, and your city has to become like that in order to address that problem, to improve reliability. But he said that, but we knew that. That was clear for us even before the research project. But what we needed to know is the steps, how to start that process. So for me, my mental image was something like this. You know, you see this shining city on the top of the mountain, but then it can be very inspiring to have that idea, that vision. But at the same time, it can be very intimidating also. So we should not stop providing visions. We should go to the messy reality of providing a viable pathway to reach that. Sometimes the goal might even change because we are living in a very much changing world. Climate change, all this happens, so we even don't know where we want to go. But as long as you move in the right direction and you provide the steps, that is the way you can achieve sustainable development in cities. So visions are inspiring, but the process is the real challenge. So we were talking about some of my own experiences. Again, this may sound very trivial, but when I look back, it is not for me. Right? These were my really important learning moments, not modeling, which, by the way, I like very much. So we said, try to have the plurality of vision. It's very important for you to be a specialist in one area, but look around a little bit and oftentimes be surprised. And learning should go beyond your own discipline. It goes to other experts, but more importantly, learning should go beyond the circle of experts. It should filter through to the other stakeholders. So there's the plurality of learning. Then there's the plurality of reality. There is no single best solution that works everywhere. Be open-minded about that. Finally, there's the plurality of implementation. Visions are generic, but when you try to implement the vision, the concrete pathways are very different depending on the realities. So when you are doing your modeling, when you are doing your social science theories, when you are doing your sanitation, when you are doing your drinking water, do that. But at the same time, my urge is please remember, and once in a while, look at the big picture. And that big picture is plurality. So this was my talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Assela, for a very inspiring presentation about making cities better. As a matter of fact, just this afternoon, when I took up some small thoughts from the meeting we had already preceding this opening ceremony, it showed that the water challenges in urban areas have quite some interest also among the visiting guests. So thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, colleagues, guests, and students, my name is Johan van Dijk. I'm the Business Director of the Institute. And it's my pleasure to welcome you here also to this opening of the academic year. My pleasure is also to announce you the next steps in the program. The next steps will be one of culture and one of music. The music is not to be made by me, fortunately for you. But we have 3 students who have enrolled last year, and I would like to invite them to the stage. And that is Miss Arina Priyanka Vedaswari from Indonesia. Where are you? Yep, please, come forward. And a great hand, Mrs. Saad Kibriya from Pakistan. And Mr. Forward Mupapa from Zimbabwe. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
There's a calm surrender to the rush of day, when the heat of a rolling wind can be turned away, and a giant moment, and it sees me through. It's enough for this restless world just to be with you. Can you feel the love tonight? Is where we are. Listen now for this wide-eyed wanderer that we got this far. Can you feel the love tonight? Tonight, how it's laid to rest. Listen now, to make kings and vagabonds leave the weary lands. There's a time for everyone, if they only learn that the twisted kaleidoscope moves us all in turn. There's a rhyme and reason to the wild outdoors, when the heart of the star-crossed voyager beats in time with yours. And can you feel the love tonight? Is where we are. It's enough for this wide-eyed wanderer Thank you very much for your beautiful performance. There was a lot of humming and singing along, so you definitely touched the right string. The next part of the program is also a very important one for us. It's about alumni, and alumni are, as we have mentioned before, very important as our ambassadors for the Institute. May I ask Maria Laura to come to the stage and introduce us to the next part of the program, which is the award.
Distinguished guests, alumni, colleagues, students. I would like to congratulate all new students on the commencement of their studies at IHE Delft. But today we also celebrate, Tatiana, I'm emotional too. But today we also celebrate Alumni Day because many professionals, our alumni, also started their studies at the Institute one day in October, like all of you. IHE Delft has more than 15,000 alumni worldwide, and they form the biggest water professionals network in the world. They are our best ambassadors, and we are very proud of all of them. In this ceremony, we have the pleasure of awarding one of our alumni that is exceptional and will receive the 6th IHE Delft Alumni Award. The award is given annually to an alumna or an alumnus who has proven to be a role model for other water professionals. 17 nominations were received this year, and as you remember, were impressed and very with the overall quality of all the nominations, with the work that they have done in different parts of the world. And now I would like to invite our Rector, Professor Eddy Moors, to announce the winner of the IHE Delft Alumni Award 2018.
Thank you, Maria Laura, and I think that indeed we're really proud of our alumni. I think you've met already a couple of them because some of them they can't say very well, but they just keep on coming back, which is what we very much appreciate. I hope it's also an invitation actually for all the others to come back. The Alumni Award, I think it's a ceremony in which we try to actually invite alumni actually to give an example and to showcase an example also to our students on what you can do and how you can contribute actually to the water sector. So here in IHE Delft we have a committee that looked at all the applications that Maria Laura was referring to, and we were looking at people that are working in the field of water. They should be an inspiring role model. They are an IHE Delft ambassador, and in a lot of cases they are working in a very innovative way in the water sector. So the alumni is given every year since the last 6 years. And in 2018, so that's for this particular year, it was again a little bit different than from other years, because what we also try to do is actually not only to use role models of people that have had a really huge career in the background, which we also very much appreciate, and I think we have, again, there very nice examples of people that have achieved to become not only a role model, but I think also a person sitting in a place where they can make things change and where they can make things happen. But I think that this year we also said, okay, that's not only for people that have arrived at a certain stage and have proven that they're able to do that, but we would also like to award an alumni award actually to a person who is still working in the field and is giving, I think, an inspiring example also to the younger alumni and the younger students around here. I think we were very lucky in the applications that were there, and we had a big challenge actually to select one person, because we always select one person here. But I would like to mention to you that we had a short list of 3 that were there, and I think that was quite exceptional. I don't know why, and maybe that's how things will be later on. All 3 were women. So that was one, and I will just name the 2 runner-ups because it's a pity that we are only handing out one winner, but I think that the other 2 also deserve, I think, a good support and congratulations from our side, and I hope also from your side. So the first one, runner-up here, is Miss Majida Abdullah Alawi, she's from Palestine. So she's our first runner-up, and together with her, it was also Dr. Rose Kagwa from Uganda. It may be nice to know also that I think in age, also the alumni differed quite a lot. So I think also there was quite some diversity in the people that applied and that were selected here. The winner, actually, of this year for the IHE Delft alumni is somebody who's an innovator, who's a social entrepreneur, who's a leader, a motivator, a connector, a communicator, idealistic, a very hard worker, and who's actively looking how to create a better world for people sharing and how you can have a better quality of life. And I think there's only one person in the room that fits that description. And that's Tatiana dos Santos Silva from Brazil. And I think, Tatiana, congratulations. But before we are going to give you the award, just a few words here, so that you also know who's standing here next to me. And Tatiana is somebody who's been working in the World Water Council Youth Delegate already for some time, and she's representing the American region there. And I don't know who of you were present at the last World Water Forum in Brasilia, but if you were there, or if you had the opportunity to look at some of the videos or the YouTubes, you could have seen her acting there. And I think you would all agree to me that this is a person that really deserves an IHE Alumni Award. But besides that, she's also an External Affairs and Advisory Board on the Water Youth Network. And the Water Youth Network, we also think is important because it connects actually our younger professionals from the water sector. And I think it's important that they also raise their voice and let us know as a global community what way we should develop the world. Because they are going to inherit what we are doing. And I think another very important part here is that she's a social entrepreneur, and she's leading actually the FA.VELA. And I don't know if you're aware of what's happening in Brazil, and I'm sure that Tatiana can say a little bit more about that. But I think the very interesting part is that she's trying to work with people in slum areas, where she's trying to engage with them and making them aware about the value of water, and helping them to create an own business in this area. And last but not least, I think what is also important to mention here is that she did her MSc at IHE on the topic of water conflict management. So I think with that, Tatiana, I would like to congratulate you. And I hope that yes. Okay, so we have a very nice award with this one. Can I give this to you? Sorry. Okay, and with that, I give the floor to Tatiana, who will say a few words to you. And your speech is following.
I know.
Hello. I feel very small here, so maybe can I use this one? And is it working? Hi everyone. This is a highly symbolic moment for us young professionals, and especially for us young women. We are many, but not even close to the representativeness that we should have in positions in this water world. However, I want to start this speech by highlighting how privileged we all are. It's close to 5 p.m. I already drank, I think, 3 bottles of water, and I flushed the toilet 4 times. I did all of this in a world where more than 2 billion people has lack of safe drinking water at home and do not have access to basic sanitation facilities. What do you do to change that? I graduated from IHE in 2014. A lot has happened after my completion of this master in water management, but I believe that I'm here today greatly due to the fact that I managed to successfully co-design and run a non-profit, FA.VELA, to build resilience in vulnerable areas in Brazil. There are 15 million people living in favelas in Brazil. 20% of the population in my city live in a favela. This is close to 300,000 people. And in the world, if you look to UN numbers, 1 in 8 people live in a slum. What do we do to change that? I became a social entrepreneur, empowering young people to lead local development and engage in urban resilience and water governance. In less than 4 years of existence, we have managed to offer entrepreneurial education and business acceleration for favela's residents to model over 160 sustainable projects and enterprises, engaging over 200 volunteers and 20 companies, NGOs, and other universities. I don't do that alone, so I take the opportunity to thank my team, but especially João Souza, my boyfriend and co-founder of FA.VELA, and Marina Horta, a life partner and IHE alumni as well, that I met in the selective process to attend here, and now we work together in Brazil, leading projects back home. IHE is where my personal and my professional journey as a social entrepreneur started. It's where I joined the Water Youth Network, a global community of students and young professionals that connects existing youth organizations and young leaders to promote youth cooperation towards improving the world's water situation. I'm proud to be a member of Water Youth Network, and I invite you all to learn more about it with our members here at IHE. I shall highlight my volunteer commitment to the Youth Delegate Program of the World Water Council as well. As the representative of the Americas region, I led the Youth Satellite events to the 8th World Water Forum. It was a global strategy that resulted in over 22 events in more than 12 countries, connecting over 1,000 young people to hydropolitics, including one event held here at IHE. Thanks everyone at Water Youth Network and the Youth Delegates Program for your hard work in raising awareness about this complex water world and the means to shape it. I'm really proud of us. And, well, now I'm the youngest IHE Alumni Awarded. I will have the opportunity to present my work and experience in detail tomorrow during my lunch seminar, Go Local and Be Global Through Water Entrepreneurship, to which you are all invited. But today I want you all to own the truth that we are the present and the future of water. We are all representatives of a social group, regardless of our wishes. You look at me, you see a woman. You see a Latin American woman. Who are you? Which groups do you represent? Learn who you are in this world and make use of the privilege that you have. The privilege of studying here, the privilege of speaking English, the privilege of acquiring strategic contacts to properly represent your group. Accept no step back in human rights. No step back. No young professionals less in strategic positions. No session without a woman's voice. No development debate without someone who truly faces development challenges. Empathy will never replace experience. So it's crucial to have the most vulnerable at the center of the creative process of designing solutions. What you study here enables you to innovate the means to address the most basic development challenge in the world, which is to secure water for all. There is much to be explored in water entrepreneurship. Learn from the diversity that we have here. Learn from each other, above all books and lectures and field trips. And really, really be the change that you wish to see in the world. Open your mind, open your possibilities, respect each other, engage in multiple activities here, but never forget where you come from. The reality of your neighborhood, the reality of your city, and the real positive impact that is needed in your local environment. Develop as a professional, but mainly develop as a global human being. I cannot conclude without expressing my eternal gratitude to my mom. She retired as a lecturer to vulnerable youth, and I learned from her the power of education and knowledge sharing. Thanks for signing me up in English classes too, because this helped a lot in my career, and it made a difference in my life. This award is for you, Mom, and I also dedicate it for every girl out there, especially the Global South ones. Leave no girl behind in the process. I hope that together we'll build a future where we can be whatever we want to be, with every human being having access to safe water. Thank you.
I would like to thank Ms. Tatiana dos Santos Silva for this really beautiful speech, very inspiring. I think as an institute we can be really proud to have such alumni that really gives us a very beautiful example of what people can reach. My name is Charlotte Pathirana. I'm a professor in land and water development here, but I'm also the vice rector, and as such I'm responsible for the education. So, as already alluded to by the different several speakers, challenges in water are really complex. Floods, droughts, water scarcity, lack of access, unequal distribution, water pollution, waterborne diseases, sea level rise, saltwater intrusion, coastal erosion, climate change, just to name a few. They are really complex problems, and there are no easy, straightforward solutions. So some people say they are wicked water problems. Now, what makes water so incredibly complex and wicked? First, we're dealing with a lot of stakeholders, and not just one stakeholder, but many stakeholders, and they come with different interests. They come with different opinions. For example, if you have an acute water shortage, and you need to redistribute water, the farmers may shout, well, we need to water because the crops are dying. The fisheries will say, please leave some water in the river because we need to fish it. The urban people may say, please, we need water for the tap, we need to drink, we need to flush our toilets. So all these interests and all these demands are different and often very hard to reconcile. So that's the first problem. The second element of complex water problems are there are high level of interconnectedness. So you probably have heard about the water, food, and energy nexus. So the interconnectedness means that if you do an intervention in one sector, that may have unexpected knock-on effect in other sectors. For example, solar power may be great as a sustainable source of energy. However, solar power in irrigation and groundwater pumping may also lead to over-exploitation of that groundwater, because it's of course also a cheap fuel. So once you have installed solar power, it's very easy and very cheap to pump water. So that may also lead to over-exploitation of groundwater. So it's great for the climate, but it's not so great sometimes, at least for the groundwater. So you have all these kind of interconnections between the sectors. So, and a third complexity is you have to deal with a lot of uncertainty. Quite often, water problems are urgent. You can't wait till you have all the data. You can't wait till you have all the certainty to make an intervention. Hence, you have to deal with a high level of uncertainty. For example, climate change adaptation is too urgent to wait till we know all the answers and we know all the scenarios. So a fourth element of complex water systems is that one solution may create its own set of problems, other problems. For example, if you build a dam for hydropower, a sustainable source of energy, or a dam to prevent flooding, it may be great to prevent flooding. However, it also has adverse effects like displacement of people, altering of river flows, disruption of sediment flows, which ultimately may also lead to coastal erosion. So there are no optimal solutions, and you always have to deal with trade-offs. Always there will be winners, and there will always be losers. So, as Assela already mentioned, there's no single best. There's no single best solution. That means compromising. It means negotiating with stakeholders. And it also means that most of the water problems you cannot solve on your own. You cannot solve it in one discipline. So you need your colleagues from different specializations. So to summarize the kind of problems, the water problems you will be dealing with, you have many stakeholders, conflicting interests, interconnected processes, high level of uncertainty, knock-on effects, winners and losers, and trade-offs. So those will probably the kind of problems water problems you will face in your future career. So what does that mean for our education? Our education is multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary. So as also one of the previous speakers said, Assela, he said, look around. And I would say, look around. You see that there's a lot of diversity in disciplines and in cultures here in this institute. Most importantly, learn to look to challenges from different perspectives, and also be challenged by different viewpoints. There's not one best solution. There's not one best viewpoint. So an ecologist has a very different perspective on the water challenges than, say, social scientists, than engineers, than technologists, biologists, and chemists. All those perspectives are very important. So don't be afraid, don't shy away from these differences, but be inspired by those differences. We usually, and I'm no exception unfortunately, we usually attend talks or conferences in our own disciplines. And sometimes that's frustrating because you don't learn anything new because it's in your own topic, right? So I would encourage you, new students, and I would encourage you very strongly to attend seminars, guest lectures, and also to choose elective modules in another topic than strictly your own discipline or your own specialization. And you may learn something new, something unexpected. And well, there's actually many examples of innovations that actually happen because of in the intersection of the different disciplines. So please, if there's an interesting talk, you think, hey, this is not really my topic, or this is not really my discipline, please go. Our education, so that's the second element of our education, stress learning from your own experiences, but also learning from your peers, peer learning. Many of our MSc students, they come with several years of experience. They are often mid-career professionals, and that's how we are slightly different from our neighboring universities. So most of you come with several years of experience, or sometimes a lot of years of experience. So we encourage you to make use of that, experience. Discuss, debate with other students from other disciplines and specializations. Learn from each other. Apply the new theories that you learn to your own experiences. But also apply your new research skills that you will acquire, hopefully, to problems from your own experience. And also ask others advice to use their experience when you are working, for example, on assignments and other practicals. As a third element of our education, embrace diversity. Again, look around. We are, I think, what Eddy would say, 50 or 50 plus nationalities. But also in disciplines, we have a lot of disciplines, different disciplines here. Now, it's of course quite tempting to stick around with the students from your own discipline, from your own country. You speak the same language, you share the same culture, and that's of course very important for settling in and getting settled in. However, I would like to encourage you, and again strongly, while you have this very unique opportunity to connect with others from different countries and different cultures, to forge new friendships with those people from other countries and other disciplines. Because that could be during classes, during lunch, coffee breaks, in the canteen, during group exercises, while walking home or cycling home. Because an international network of water professionals is maybe one of the most precious assets that you will gain at your time here at IHE. Now, another element, learning is an active process. Now, as an institute, we of course do our utmost best to offer you the most interesting, up-to-date courses and classes, lectures, assignments. We offer new, exciting knowledge and insights. But what you actually will learn and take away is to a large extent up to you. There is much to learn also outside the classes. And again, I would like to encourage you strongly to attend lunch seminars like tomorrow. We have a very interesting lunch seminar, so I hope to see you, everybody here. Guest lectures, presentations by staff and PhDs, but there's also very interesting film festivals on water, excursions and other experiences. So make use of them. They are really a unique opportunity. Lastly, our education is not only about knowledge and knowledge transfer, but it's also about developing new skills, such as research skills, presentation skills, critical reading, academic writing, working in groups, working as a team, collaboration, negotiation, etc. But also learning to embrace multidisciplinarity and also cultural diversity. It also includes leadership skills. Now, leaders are, some people might think leaders are the managers, those in charge, the bosses who tell their subordinates what to do. This is not the kind of leadership that we are talking about here. We are referring to the type of transformational leadership that is needed to address the kind of wicked, complex water problems that I was talking about earlier. So showing leadership means setting directions, setting goals for yourself and for others, and also for your organization. Leadership means working towards achieving a shared vision and motivate others to achieve that vision. For example, our vision here in IHE Delft is we foresee a world free of poverty and injustice in which people manage their water sustainably and equitably. And we are working towards that. So, with that, summarizing, our education is multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary. It's experience-based. It's based on peer learning. And we, of course, emphasize learning as an active and really active process. And we try to seek the right balance between knowledge and skills. So, for all new students, I sincerely hope that you will gain a lot during your time here at IHE, in terms of knowledge, skills, network, but also inspiration. And we had a very inspirational talk right now here. So, looking at the water challenges ahead of us, we certainly need those inspired, motivated, bright water professionals. So, I wish you a very wonderful learning experience here in IHE Delft.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. And with that, I would like to say just a few words. First of all, I would like to thank all the speakers of today. And I hope it gave a flavor to all of you about what the students may expect and what we hope they will take back home after they leave the Institute. I also would like to stress again, actually, the fact that tomorrow at lunchtime, and that's at 1:45, and you are all invited. So that is not only for the students, but actually everybody here in the room, and even if you know from people outside of the room that could be interested in actually hearing a little bit from our alumni winner. A presentation that's called Act Local and Be Global Through Water Entrepreneurship. And I can assure you, I also had a short introductory talk with you, and I think it's a very interesting topic to learn about, because I think it shows a complete different approach on what you can do with your study afterwards. So be invited here 1:45 in the same room, so easy to find, and I hope to see you here tomorrow. Then another thing I would like to do is I would like to have a warm thanks to all the staff, but also of the Students' Affairs Office for the work from actually processing the applications, which is quite a work, because you can imagine that it's not only the students that are here, but it's also all the students that applied, but unfortunately we're not able to have access to the Institute this year. I hope that will be able next year. But that's quite some work, but also organizing the accommodation that you will experience. And I think the smallest parts that are there, even knife and forks, to ensure that you also have something to eat for lunch and dinner during arrival here. So an extra big thanks goes to the sub-member, Part Kamat, for all his work here, and all the students volunteers and other staff for ensuring that the arrival and meeting of the new students went well. And I hope that you, as new students, all experience this warm welcome. And I personally very much appreciate the fact that, say, the former, new students make the new arrivals feel at home here at IHE Delft. So also on behalf of the Rectorate, I would like to thank you very much for that. Also, I would like to thank the Dutch volunteers here. The Dutch volunteers I mentioned before for the valuable shopping and trips and other tips that are either already provided or that will provide in due time. And I know that also in the coming months they will be engaging with the new students to also make them feel at home and to learn a little bit about the Dutch social setting. And as the last point, before we're leaving here, and we can go to reception, I would like to invite actually the ambassadors and the embassy representatives to meet the students and the PhD fellows from the countries that I will read out outside here in the foyer. And you will see some tables standing there with the flag of your country. And so for those countries where both students and embassy representatives and ambassadors are available, please go to the flag of your country. For the ambassadors and the embassy representatives that are here and unfortunately not yet have students here, I would like to invite them to go to the table with the United Nations flag, and I would like to meet them there for a short discussion. I think we will try to keep it limited, say 15 minutes or so, and then with the group we will go downstairs for a picture. Meanwhile, for all the others, I would like to invite them to already go downstairs and have a drink at our reception place downstairs in the restaurant. So with that, let me read out the embassies, and I will try to read in alphabetical order. So first country is Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Brazil, Cuba, Egypt, Ethiopia, India, Iran, Iraq, Kenya, Mexico, Peru, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Uganda, Vietnam, and Yemen. And all the other ambassadors and representatives, you are now part of the UN nations. So welcome to the table with the UN flag. So thank you all, and I hope you enjoyed this afternoon, and I hope to be able to talk to you later.